We're talking with David Mattin from a company called Trend Watchers. You're a trend watcher. You see 4 main consumer trends for next year. What are they?
Yeah, so I was here to share 4 of the big trends we see, digital fueled trends we see for 2018. The first one was a trend that we call automated commerce or A-commerce. So we've had e-commerce, we've had M-commerce. We're going to see a lot more A-commerce in 2018. That's about consumers outsourcing their retail behaviors, like the purchasing, the sourcing, the delivery, the returns, outsourcing those kinds of behaviors to smart services like AI and machine learning and smart devices. And I gave some examples of that, like there's this online platform, Finery, that's like a smart wardrobe management system. You can sync it to your browser. You sync items of clothing to a virtual wardrobe, and then Finery starts to look after you. It will say things like, this pair of trousers has gone on sale, would you like me to buy them? Or actually this jumper you can get cheaper somewhere else, would you like me to buy that? And if you do buy it, it will then start to alert you when the returns window is closing. You can get it to return your clothes for you.
Yeah, so you mean automated commerce means with a lot of chatbots and artificial intelligence, things come right at your doorstep and one click away and you get it really delivered.
Exactly, that's right. Yeah, just outsourcing all of that behavior to AI, to smart devices. A second big trend I really wanted to share is called True Self. True Self is a personalization trend. It's about saying, where is the world of personalization heading next? And really it's founded in the idea that online consumers live in this algorithmically tailored bubble that shapes everything around their own tastes and preferences. And in 2018 they're going to expect that bubble to extend out into the real world in all kinds of new ways. So using personal data to create a personalized, tailored experience for the consumer. And again, we see lots of examples of that. I gave one example of a luxury retailer called Farfetch. They're working on a store that's going to do just what I say. So you walk into the Farfetch store with the Farfetch app, and the shop assistants in that store will immediately see a curated list of everything you've ever browsed on Farfetch. And they're going to use that to deliver a personalized service to you. So they're going to say, aha, like yesterday, you looked at this vase. Would you like to look at this vase in the store? Did you know this vase is part of a bigger set of bowls and plates or whatever it is, right? And actually the store is going to be rigged with sensors, so if you pick anything up in the store, it will automatically sync to your virtual basket inside the Farfetch app. So the barriers between the online experience and the offline experience sort of disappear.
So much like personalization can be a bubble that you only see the things that you like already, and now you extend it into other directions, real world, and then your personalization becomes an extension and works much better. That's
exactly, yeah. And because this powerful expectation is being established online, it's going to display itself. It's going to come out into the real world in all kinds of new ways in 2018, and not just the kind of personal data that we create online. You can think about DNA as a form of data. You know, I showed a travel company that's asking everyone who engages with the company to take a DNA swab. They'll do a total sequence of your genome and build a global itinerary for you based on your unique genetic heritage, right? So we're going to see more forms of that kind of personalization in 2018. It's a crazy example, but the expectation...
It's like, oh, you've got gray hair, you have to go to Taiwan.
Yes, the expectation it's tapping into is very powerful and a super interesting one for any innovator to be thinking about.
Interesting. Number 3?
So number 3 was a trend called virtual companions. And that's really about saying we're very accustomed now to dealing with chatbots and again, dealing with AI, dealing with smart services for functional purposes. So for example, I showed even banks. Like banks are very boring, conservative businesses on the whole. I showed Capital One, the bank, has now built a chatbot to let you manage your account. So you talk to this chatbot, you can manage your account, make payments, check your balance, all of that. In 2018, we're going to see consumers expecting to interact with these virtual entities, not just for functional purposes, but for deeper purposes, for things like wellness, for counseling, for advice, for companionship. And I showed an amazing...
They're going to get much better, you mean?
They're going to have to get a lot better to meet this expectation. And one that is already doing it is an amazing example I showed, probably the most sci-fi example in my presentation. This app called Replica, which is an AI-fueled chatbot. You talk to it for many hours, it asks you questions, you tell the chatbot all about who you are. over time it starts to become a mirror image of your personality. And there are people who have used
What's the name again? Where can I find it?
It's called Replica, Replica with a K.
Replica.com.
Yeah, well actually I think it's replica.io, but if you Google Replica with a K, K-A at the end, you'll see it online. Yeah, people who've talked to this thing for many, many hours say it becomes almost an uncanny mirror image of their personality, okay? And then the idea is you talk to this chatbot to learn more about who you are, to get insight into your own personality, which is, I mean, this is crazy, it sounds very sci-fi, but these kinds of services are going to create the expectation that brands and businesses change their interactions with consumers. They go just beyond the functional towards something that's deeper and more meaningful, and that's a very exciting trend for 2018.
Because the technology is out there, people are going to expect it.
Exactly, that's 100% right. You know, people, they don't even have to use Replica, they just have to, most people won't, of course, but they just have to see it and other examples like it to say to themselves, aha, like the technology is now exactly as you say, the technology has happened. Why is my bank still dealing with me in this very functional, transactional way? You know, things need to change.
Number 4.
So trend number 4, my last trend, and this is a trend I wanted to talk about that is not really a tech-fueled trend. As I said, it's no coding required, no development required. This is the trend that's all about the ethics and the values inside your organization. We live in a very transparent world. People can see right inside your organization now, and that's changing the way they feel about your brand. Like, you only have to look at Uber across the last 12 months to see what I mean. We've seen deep inside Uber.
Your ethics is your brand. That's
yeah, exactly. Your ethics is your brand. We saw deep inside Uber, we didn't like what we saw. That's changed the way we feel about engaging with Uber. Like, the service is still great, most people love the service, but they feel uneasy about the brand now because of what they saw inside.
Is this with privacy as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the way you deal with people's personal data is part of your internal culture, so that becomes an important part of your brand too. And the answer that I wanted to give to this conundrum for brands is just to say, look, the answer is to make meaningful, positive change to your internal culture and then tell the world about it, tell that story. And I gave a quick example of Intel, who spent hundreds of millions of dollars, or are spending hundreds of millions of dollars, to build a more diverse workforce. They're saying it's not good enough that the tech industry only employs like white 25-year-old guys. You know, we want diversity inside Intel. That's an internal change, but it's also changing the way people feel about the Intel brand. It's changing the way customers feel about engaging with Intel. And that's a hugely important trend for any business, but any tech business in 2018. And you don't have to do any coding to apply it. You know, you just have to change the ethics inside your organization. Having said that, that is of course, organizational change is never easy.
Okay, that's the 4 trends.
Yes.
Last piece of advice you want to give to online marketeers?
So the advice from me is really always the same. It's just, yes, take those 4 trends with you, but the most important thing is take a trend watcher's way of looking at the world with you out into the world in 2018. So when you see innovations around you, new products, new services, new campaigns, if you just ask yourself one question every time you see an innovation, ask yourself, how will this innovation change what customers expect? When other customers, other human beings see this innovation, what new kinds of expectations will it create? And then, of course, how can I, in my business, in my marketing team, in my startup, how can I act to serve those expectations? Because if you can do that, if you can go around the world asking that question about what you see, you become your own trend watcher. You can start to spot trends of your own, and then you will be ahead of the curve, right? Which is where everyone wants to be.
Very interesting. Thank you very much.